letting everybody, people in. So please give us a couple more minutes and we will be starting very, very, very soon. Thank you so much for being part of this every week. We really appreciate your support. Thank you.
Nigeria to greatness.
The Electoral Commission has declared Bola Tinubu president.
In the early hours on Wednesday, Bola Tinubu had been declared the winner of this election.
Muhammadu of the APC, having satisfied the requirements of the law, is hereby declared the winner.
The grand running.
From day one, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu took some far-reaching decisions.
adúpẹ́ torí pé Ọlọ́run jẹ́ kí a wà nínú ìjọba àwa ara wa nínú ìjọ tí kì í ṣe pé bẹ́ẹ̀ àwọn ológun ló ń darí wa lọ́wọ́lọ́wọ́ báyìí àgbọ̀nra wa yé ṣùgbọ́n nǹkan tí mo kàn wò ó yẹ kí n sọ tó ń dùn wá gan ni pé ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ àwa tá a jẹ́ aráàlú tá a sí ní ipò àwọn òṣèlú tó ga à ń jìyà gan.
I pledge to Nigeria, my country, being faithful and committed to the economic development.
Mr. President is quite a transparent book, an open book that people can see. Whatever they see him do, that's what he does in private. But what he does more is that he reviewing things and going through files and trying to think about ways he can get things going on well for our people to deliver on the promises he has made to Nigerians.
We have to make sure this country stay on the right path to succeed. Over 200 million Nigerians. We willingly accepted the appointment. I accepted the mandate of the people. On behalf of delegated some of these powers to you to serve the country.
And my people and to have government, to have faith in the president who has his eye on the ball, he knows where he's going. The road may be rough.
Nigerians, don't look backward. For sure, you have to care about you.
Of this country and his love for Nigeria.
We win. We turn it around. There's a very good bright light at the end of the tunnel. the tunnel of hope. Education is the tool to fight against poverty effectively. We are determined to ensure education is given the proper attention necessary, including skill. And to build their future. We are here because we are all educated.
Hello, everybody.
There are so many being possible. But in your dictionary of servants, everything is possible and must be possible. We have the talent, you have the level of intellectual capacity to turn this country around. Yes.
Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to this Renewed Hope Global Virtual Town Hall Conference. My name is Ambassador Joseph Kolaole Adebola, and I'm going to be your host throughout the next 2 hours. But before we get the conference off the ground, can we please stand up as we play our national anthem?
Nigeria, we hail thee, our own dear native land. Though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all and proud to serve our sovereign fatherland.
Thank you ever so much for being part of this conference again today. Like I said earlier on, my name is Ambassador Joseph Kolaole Adebola, and I'm going to be your host for the rest of this afternoon. Now, as today's special edition is a tribute to the former President Muhammadu Buhari, GCFR, please let's observe a 1-minute silence in his memory, starting from now. May his gentle soul rest in perfect peace, and may Allah grant him Al-Jannah Firdaus. Thank you so very much. And once again, I welcome you all to the new, to the Renewed Hope Global Virtual Town Hall Conference. Today's conference, as you are well and aware, is another special edition as a tribute to a man, a gallant soldier who fought and gave his all for his country. A man who laid the foundation for massive infrastructure and war against indiscipline in Nigeria. A man who lived in a country littered with corrupt elements, yet stood out as a man of integrity. That's the man we are celebrating today. Yes, there's celebration in death because he lived a very fruitful life, and I believe he died fulfilled. We give God all the glory for that. However, on the hot seat today to chair our tribute to our late former President Muhammadu Buhari GCFR, who recently answered the call to the great beyond and was buried with full well-deserved national honor, is Dr. George Agbakahi. He is a renowned political analyst and public affairs commentator who is widely recognized for his incisive analysis of Nigeria's political landscape. And as usual, my co-hosts for today are Honorable Jacob Ogusheye, Haji Arekia Bello Abakar, Udeme Ukwe, Sheung Bayu, and Tosi Olayinka, who will be assisting me as always in moderating today's conference to ensure a smooth and uninterrupted deliberation. This conference is streaming live across social media and especially on Ben TV, courtesy of the CEO of the first Nigerian African TV digital channel, Alastair Shoyode. Many thanks for your support and assistance always. And just taking a closer look through the conference room today, I can see new faces as well as many of our regular participants from across the globe. Thank you all for always joining the conference every week without fail, and for watching us on Ben TV and across all social platforms. Towards the end of the conference, I will be acknowledging the presence of our leaders and stakeholders in the house. In the meantime, on behalf of the team behind the Renewed Hope Global, I welcome you all to today's session. And today, as usual, we have in our midst a VVIP who is specially chosen for his oratory to help us do justice to the tribute to our late President Muhammadu Buhari GCFR. The VVIP is Dr. George Agbakahi, a renowned political analyst, no less. And our topic today is Legacy of Duty, reflecting on late former President Muhammadu Buhari's life and leadership. So today, as you might have been hearing all along since morning, we will be exploring the life and times of the people's president who departed this sinful world precisely last Sunday and has since been interred, according to Muslim rites, in his hometown Daura in Katsina State. We will discuss the enigma that was former President Muhammadu Buhari GCFR, his legacy, both as a military and democratic leader of the most populous African country, Nigeria. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I am pleased to announce that our special guest of honor for today, who will be engaging us on the legacy of our departed former president, has joined the conference. In fact, he joined the conference before many of us. Again, another testament to the facts that have always been hammering on that we have a crop of leaders in Nigeria today who have their hands on the ball. These are leaders that I've always been aiming that when I grow up, I want to be like them. People who are up, who keep to time. Thank you so very much, sir, for being here today. We really do appreciate you. He is Dr. George Agbakahi, as I said earlier on. He's a renowned political analyst. So, to kickstart the conference properly, please permit me to read out the profile of our special guest, Dr. George Agbakahi. Dr. George Agbakahi is a respected political thinker and public affairs commentator, widely recognized for his incisive analysis of Nigeria's political landscape. As a seasoned political analyst, he has made notable appearances on platforms such as TVC and Arise News, where he provides well-reasoned perspectives on national issues, including governance reform, electoral integrity, constitutional structure, and public accountability. His calm, articulate style, and depth of understanding has made him a trusted voice in conversations around Nigeria's democratic development and institutional evolution. Dr. Agbakahi holds a doctorate in political science and strategic studies, demonstrating a profound academic foundation in governance, public policy, and political economy. He blends theoretical insights with practical experience, bringing scholarly depth to national discourse. His research interests include democratic consolidation, leadership ethics, and the study of political party systems in Africa. He has authored several papers and contributed to public policy dialogues both locally and internationally, and is regularly invited to speak at academic forums, leadership retreats, and civil society engagements. In recent years, Dr. Agbakahi has remained vocal in support of reforms aimed at repositioning Nigeria for sustainable growth. He has endorsed key national initiatives, including the removal of fuel subsidies, restructuring of the power sector, educational financing through student loan schemes, and fiscal discipline through tax reforms. He views these as long overdue structural corrections that could catalyze long-term economic stability and broaden social opportunity. He also advocates for institutional renewal, urging the establishment of a stronger civil service, responsive public institutions, and accountable governance. Dr. Agbakahi is a well-established chieftain of the All Progressive Congress APC and served prominently on the 2023 Presidential Campaign Council PCC as part of its media and publicity directorate. He also acted as Southeast leader of the Tinubu Support Organization, coordinating outreach and messaging across the region during the campaign. That, in a nutshell, is the profile of our special guest for today. So please join me in welcoming VVIP to this conference today. You are welcome, Your Excellency. We can't seem to hear him. Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can hear you now.
Thank you very much, sir, for having me. And also, I appreciate all those kind words about me. I wish to particularly thank the organizers of this great program, the Renewed Hope Global, for their ingenuity and patriotism, particularly in Ambassador Kayode, the chairman, as well as my very good friend, Prince Ade Omole. You know, you guys have done great in this country. May God continue to bless you all.
Amen. Thank you so very much, sir. Once again, our main topic for today is Legacy of Duty, reflecting on late former President Muhammadu Buhari's life and leadership. And as we always do on these programs, I will be asking the first question and yield the floor to you to answer it. Then we'll then go to the floor for participants to ask them their questions. When we go to the floor, the way we normally do it, we will be asking about 2 or 3 participants to fill their questions. Then we'll yield the floor to you to answer all the 3 or 4 at once. And I would, in asking my question, I'm going to ask a broad-based question for obvious reasons, because I know you being an orator. I met you in Abuja and I was bowled over by your speech. I'm sure you remember in May. That was the first time I met you, and trust me, that first impression, you know, for me, it stays with me, you know, up till now. So, and when I heard that you were coming, I was so overjoyed, because I thought to myself that there's nobody else that will give this this tribute of today justice, that somebody who is very close to a former president and who knows him in and out, and who is a fantastic orator, because it takes someone of your pedigree to be able to deliver. So thank you so very much, sir, for accepting to be here today. So like I said, my question will be broad-based for obvious reasons. My question is simply this: who was late President Muhammadu Buhari? What is his legacy? And what lessons can we learn from his life and style of leadership? I know those questions will give you enough scope to be able to regale us as to who the man was in his lifetime, because he lived, even though he was very moderate, but he was larger than life for so many reasons. So for that reason, I believe my broad-based question will you'll be able to do it justice, sir. So you have the floor now, sir.
Thank you again. Let me start by welcoming all the participants, to this conference. Permit me to start by commiserating with the family of our late former president on the demise of former President Buhari. May the Almighty God accept his illustrious soul and at the same time comfort the family. I wish to particularly commend President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and his entire administration for the way and manner the federal government coordinated and organized the funeral of former President Buhari. It showed a lot of respect and class.
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot to talk in respect of former President Muhammadu Buhari, but I will try as much as possible to be very concise because of time constraint. Former President Muhammadu Buhari was a person of immense wisdom, creativity, and profound kindness. He is somebody that is, immense integrity, not only in Nigeria, but Africa as a whole. He's pretty trustworthy, dynamic, and incorruptible. In fact, in Africa, he was one of the very few leaders that broke the yoke in obliterating an incumbent government in power, and that was in 2015. So according to Chuck Palahniuk is a great novelist based in, I think, somewhere, one of these states in, I think, New Orleans or so in the United States. He said, "We all die. The goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to create something that will." You see, former President Muhammadu Buhari lived an altruistic life worthy of emulation. He fought the good fight of faith and will forever be remembered for his heroism and valiant deeds. President Muhammadu Buhari started his leadership career as far back as 1978, when, during the Obasanjo administration, he was appointed as the northeastern governor during the military era of Nigeria. And he played a huge role in infrastructural development then. Then, after that, when democracy came into being in 1979, during the regime of President Shehu Shagari, President Shehu Shagari saw something in former President Muhammadu Buhari. He showed that leadership skill in him and appointed him as the general officer commanding the 3rd Mechanized Division in Jos. Why he was in Jos? Because of his spirit of firmness and principle. It is important to note that at some point, he disagreed with President Shehu Shagari during the brief Chadian-Nigerian war. They disagreed on military policy. it was General Awushichi, who was the chief of army staff, that eventually intervened and resolved the issue amicably. Then, in 1983, President Muhammadu Buhari became the Nigerian head of state through a military coup. His military administration, as we all know, was marked by some civic campaigns, such as the war against indiscipline, the fight against corruption, as well as, tackling of insecurity in this country. All this happened during that period before there was a military coup against his government by President, President Ibrahim Babangida, and that was in 1985. So there are a lot of legacies we can talk about in respect of President Muhammadu Buhari, particularly when he became the civilian president in 2015, between 2015 and 2023. One of the most notable achievements, of Buhari was the infrastructural development program. The most prominent was road construction under a tax credit scheme, an initiative which is still active today. The Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, the second Niger Bridge, the Abuja-Kaduna-Zaria-Kano Expressway were some of his signature projects. Similarly, former President Muhammadu Buhari revived the country's railway system after several years of decay during the PDP administration under East Rail Modernization Program, including the Lagos-Ibadan Standard Gauge Line, Abuja-Kaduna Rail Line, Ipape-Warri Rail Line. Muhammadu Buhari, during his administration, also constructed new international terminals in Lagos, in Abuja, Port Harcourt, Kano, alongside runways, airport runways upgrades in Enugu and Abuja airports. I remember vividly, in 2016, President Muhammadu Buhari launched the significant National Social Investment Program, the Africa's largest. His administration established the National Social Register of poor and vulnerable households in the country, of which about 50 million persons from 12 million poor and vulnerable households across the 774 local governments benefited from this program. It's also important to note that it was during President Muhammadu Buhari's regime that the COVID-19 pandemic came into play, and his administration was able to coordinate it properly. In respect of his political legacies, which to me is very important, President Muhammadu Buhari distinguished himself as a political leader with unmatched organic fellowship. Majority of his followers were concentrated in northern Nigeria. And it's on record that he was the only politician in Nigeria that consistently polled 12 million votes in every election, apart from the one in 2015, which he garnered over 15 to 16 million votes. So definitely, his demise has created a power vacuum in northern Nigeria. The North, all through his involvement in partisan politics, had a political direction. Conversely, with his demise, the North would, for the first time in 22 years, be going into a major election without a political rallying point. But of course, just like in every region, a leader will spring up. We all remember in the First Republic, Sir Muhammadu Bello was the rallying point in the north. At some point in the Second Republic, Malam Aminu Kanu took over, even though his own rallying point was limited to Kanu and part of Kaduna then. But to me, it will be very difficult to really get a replacement of former President Muhammadu Buhari in northern Nigeria instantly. But like I said earlier, at some point, other leaders will definitely spring up. Former President Muhammadu Buhari was a principled, firm leader, but at the same time can be pragmatic when called upon. A typical example, like I said earlier on, was his disagreement with President Shehu Shagari in 1983. So he's somebody that embodies some of the virtues, some of the values which the masses in northern Nigeria craves in a leader. Democratic values of honesty, integrity, selflessness. He's pretty popular with younger elements due to his style of politics. He was able all through his political career to, if not champion, at least appeal to the support base of northern Nigeria. He was truly seen as a natural-born father figure that can be seen by northerners to carry people along. There is a lot going on for this man. And Nigeria, to me, is blessed to have had somebody like President Muhammadu Buhari. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. That was. You said it was going to be brief, but for me, that was very, very. How do I put it? Very, 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 very expansive, and you seem to cover the virtues of this man so much so that I was having problems, catching up with my takeaways that I normally notes that I normally take under my takeaways. Thank you so very much for that, because it's like I wrote in my Saturday message this morning. The man to me seemed like an enigma. He was an enigma of some sort, so much so that he seemed to affect people differently, depending on which side of the spectrum you belong. Some hate him for no just cause, for the things that he stood for, whilst many millions more love the man with a passion. He had a cult-like followership, like you said, which is something that I cherish a lot, because it's like you said, unlike even though late Aminu Kano too had his own fair share of followership, just like that, but Ahmad Bello and the late Sardana Ahmad Bello seemed to have something similar to that. But this man seemed to transcend both these two that we spoke about, because he seems to his popularity seemed to traverse the whole of the north, not just a particular section. And for that, I think he will be remembered for so many years to come. And that's why, for me, I think, like you said, the country is blessed to have someone like that, who, unlike other people that had the opportunity to lead the country twice, he made his mark. Whether you believe in his politics or not, the fact remains that he made his mark, especially with all the programs that he brought up, which you enumerated some of them when you were talking earlier on. One of which is the social investment program. I think that was the first time we ever had something like that in our country, and I know a lot of people that benefited from that, and even some of my family members benefited from some of it too. So that's why, because I have a first-hand experience with it, and that's why I'm able to understand how that program, affects people whilst he was the leader. And don't forget, when he was coming, because I was one of his ardent followers, because I wrote, I had time to write then. I was a prolific writer at the time. Now, the exigencies of life sometimes now get in the way, but at that time I had all the time. And I remembered that there were misgivings from certain quarters at the time because of his antecedents as the military head of state. Because you see, this is one thing that I cherish in a leader. A leader must have a focus, which is something that I think this man had in droves. It was that focus that made him, as a military man, to be able to do. So sometimes people fail to realize that he spent only 20 months as a head of state, because he felt like he was there for many years, but it was just 20. Because I still remember the day he was toppled. I still remembered on that day. I was in Kaduna on that day, and I wasn't very happy. I wasn't happy when I heard it on the news. I think it's August 25th or 28th. I can't remember. One of those dates, 25th or 28th of August, 1985. I still remember that vividly. And people have argued that the people that took over from him are the ones that started the downward spiral that the country has been going through since then. That is arguable, but then the fact of the matter is the country has not known peace since his administration was toppled, because all he was trying to do at that time was to reset the country that at that time was going haywire, and nobody knew that Nigerians could obey laws until he came in. I remember vividly, because I was working in Kaduna at the time, you dare not throw when you eat gala, you dare not throw it out of anyhow. It was called war against indiscipline. He streamlined the country within that 20 months. That nobody believed that he was just there for 20 months. So I don't know, maybe if you can still give us more input as to who this man really, because for me, I just thinking about him gives me goosebumps, and I still can't believe that the man is gone. And that's the truth. I still can't believe that the man is gone, because for someone like me, I thought he was going to live forever. And he did what he had to do, and he did it so perfectly well. It's like I said earlier on, certain people may not agree with his politics, but the fact remains that the man, he meant well for the country, and he had that political will that certain leaders didn't have. And that is why, for me, we decided to make today all about the man. So I don't know if there's any more light that you'd like to shed on the man and his politics.
Yes. We all know pretty well that before President Muhammad Buhari came on board in 2015.
Yeah.
You remember in 2012, 2013?
Yeah.
In terms of insecurity.
Yeah.
Boko Haram had on to about 17 local governments.
Yes, I still remember. Yes.
In Borno State,
yeah.
in Adamawa State, and in Yobe State.
Yes. They even had their flag.
President Muhammadu Buhari came in.
Yeah.
He came in.
Yeah.
And it took less than 7 or 8 months.
Yeah.
For that to dissipate. And the Nigerian army took over all those 17 local governments that used to be in the hands of terrorists and Boko Haram. That was awesome. I think he also played a huge role, in forming the All Progressive Congress
Yeah.
by bringing, the CPC bloc, President Tinubu bringing the ANC bloc, Obonayono bringing the AMPP bloc,
Yeah.
and I think Rocha Sokorocha bringing part of the ABGA bloc.
Yeah.
And that was what led to the formation, of the formidable APC that was able to extricate, the government of President Jonathan. Something that is one of the few times in African history, that an incumbent in another political party was obliterated from office.
Yes.
And apart from that, regardless of what people say, I still believe that former President Muhammadu Buhari had a symbiotic relationship with current President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. I believe they have that relationship that even some of the detractors, particularly some that belong to the Buhari's camp in his administration, were against that relationship. I still believe they were too close. I had one of the Buhari ministers, I think Minister for Aviation, when he was interviewed during the burial, he said eloquently that members of the CPC bloc will stay in tandem with the APC, that they are not going anywhere.
Beautiful.
Former President Muhammadu Buhari loves APC as a party. He's one of the architects. He's one of the surveyors. He's one of the builders of the All Progressive Congress. So I believe sincerely that his associates, his followers, majority of them will still be in APC.
Thank you so very much for that. I think I share that same belief with you too, because believe it or not, I am of the AMPP bloc, and I joined AMPP because of Buhari at the time, and I met him a few times because of that, and my impression of him at the time was, before then, one of the things that really made me to believe in him more was the way he emerged as the party's flag bearer in 2014. Because if you recall, during the primaries where he emerged, nobody gave him a chance that he was going to become a presidential candidate at the time. I'm just trying to do all of this now before we go to our participants to start to ask their questions, because I'm just trying for us to live, because some of these things that we're talking about, certain people don't even know about them. So that's why I just want us to talk about it. Because I remember at that time, I was thinking that either Kwankwaso or Atiku would win, because they had everything that for them to win, and how Buhari came to overtake all of them and win at that Congress made me to believe that his emergence was divine. What's your take on that, sir?
Well, me as a political scientist, I truly believe that current President Bola Ahmed Tinubu played a very prominent and constructive role in the emergence of, Muhammadu Buhari as the presidential candidate of APC. Quite all right. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar had the money. Kwankwaso also had the money. But I believe former President Buhari had the goodwill.
Yes.
And with his support of current President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, it was easy for him to win that primaries, because current President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the ACN bloc, particularly in the Southwest, voted overwhelmingly for President Muhammadu Buhari. I think, and I'm very delighted that he was the one that won that election. because he's a person of tremendous integrity and valor.
Yeah. And I think you're right there too, because even his emergence as the president in 2015 gave the country a lot of prestige globally, because prior to that time, Nigeria's image was on a downward spiral due to so many factors that we all know about. I don't want us to go too much into it now, but immediately he emerged as the president. All of a sudden, it was like by some kind of divine fiat, the prestige of the country, started going up. Certain Western countries started, to kind of warm back to Nigeria. And I remembered he was invited by so many countries at the time, for some kind of bilateral discussions and stuff like that. That again helped the country a lot during his first term, and which I believe he was able to build up on in the second term, which was one of the reasons why I believe that the party still won in 2023, which brought in our current president. And like you said, he was instrumental, whether we like it or not, and whether we like to agree or not, he was instrumental in his emergence as the party's flag bearer. Because like you said, Atiku and Kwankwaso had war chests of money. Even this guy too, what's his name? Okorocha too, he had a war chest of money. Baba had no, it's like the other man I don't want to mention now. Baba had no shishi, but he had that integrity. And he has that, which for me is more of a worthy currency than physical cash.
Yes, and when he won the presidency, I believe he won the heart of the international community.
Yes.
Particularly because of some of the virtues that he possessed.
Yeah.
Like this issue of integrity, honesty, selflessness. This is a man who had held a lot of big positions in this country.
Yeah,
but he never amassed wealth.
No.
He was never corrupt. Never had houses in Abuja, in overseas, in US, everywhere. That really shows the kind of man he was. I think these are lessons that our current leaders and future leaders will also need to learn. These are lessons they will learn for the future. It's not all about money. It's about integrity.
Yeah.
What have you been able to do for your country? What have you been able to do for your community?
Yeah.
I think former President Muhammadu Buhari did a whole lot for this country. He instilled democratic values of honesty, democratic values of selflessness, democratic values of even rule of law, and respect for the individual as a source of public authority. These are some of the lessons the current and future leaders need to learn from him.
Thank you so very much, because I was just going to touch on that lesson that we learned, and you just overshot me there, which is all well and good, because I read one of the statements he made whilst he was alive. I read it this week, where he said, I think he said it in a Hausa program, where he said he didn't come to this world with anything. He said, "Why?" And he's not going to go with anything. So why should he steal? That resonates in my head, that this is a man who has the fear of God in him, who is always scared of that day when he's going to stand before his maker. That what of all the opportunities that was given to you, what did you do with it? How have you impacted your community? That's another something I read this week, when there was a report that says he tarred the road to his village or something like that, and that which meant it was more like a satire from somebody writing that it meant that when his body was being driven to his village, there was no pothole, there was nothing. And I remember that took my mind back to when he was, I think it was in his first term, when we were going for the second term election, when there was this talk about him tarring a road that went into Atiku's village. And somebody was asking that he was the vice president for 8 years. How come he couldn't do that? And it took another man who was not even from that part of the country to, to tar the road. That is one of the lessons I think we all the leaders now should learn, because I believe you being a leader is an opportunity granted to you by God. And
I agree with you. And that's why you see, I believe former President Muhammadu Buhari's politics, to me, was devoid of religion. It was devoid of ethnicity. It was devoid of class. And this particular attribute was epitomized on his burial day.
Yes.
You see all Nigerians, irrespective of your ethnicity, irrespective of your political party, everybody was in attendance.
Yeah.
That shows really the kind of man he was.
Thank you so very much. I will be shortly, in a short while, I'll be going to the participants. So anybody who has any question to ask VIP, please raise your hands. There's a hand emoji at the bottom of the screen, so that we'll be calling you one after the other. You see, some of the things that this man did that I remembered whilst we were talking, I remember some of his legacy, which at the time he did it, people were criticizing him. That was the road he made. I think, was it a railroad or third road from Kano to Niger? I remember there was a lot of hoopla about that maybe he was doing it because he was from da. But I was at that time I was writing prolifically at the time, and I remember I wrote something about that. I said, look, I was born in the north. I grew up in the north, and I understand that in Kano, when you go to the Kano market to buy something, a typical Hausa trader, even if he does not have that item, he will tell you to deposit some money and come back later. Guess where he will be going? He's going to Niger to get those items. And by the time you're back, the item is there. So that was why I understood why he had to do that. But people from my side of the country didn't understand that part of what he was doing, because I saw beyond this sentiment of, oh, maybe because he's from Nigeria, that's why. No. It was an economic, for me, it was an economic decision, meant to, to help the people in that area. And for me, that is the way I think. I just brought that in when you're talking about the man has no fiber of ethnicity or religion or whatever in him. That is one of the things that he did that some people mistook. And remember again, when he took Sukuklo, I'm sure you remember that too.
Yes, you know very well that in the 3 or 4 trials that he lost an election, he lost elections in Nigeria.
Yeah.
One of the major variables that was used against him was that he will Islamize Nigeria.
Yes.
And that was the main reason why in 2011 he chose Tunde Bakare to be his vice president. Do you remember?
Yes, yeah.
But we now realize that he never had any plan to Islamize Nigeria. I think he was a true and dedicated, devout Muslim that never had his politics, like I said, was devoid of ethnicity. It was devoid of religion, was devoid of geography. He did everything, accordingly, politically.
Thank you so very much. I think you see, this is one of the reasons why certain decent people, try to avoid politics, because there's this saying that if you want people to dig your history, enter politics. You see, people in that part of in our part of the world, people play politics very dirty, and that is why they see every move made by certain leaders within the prism of either religion or ethnicity. You cannot fault a man for being deeply religious, because that is his personal relationship with his God. So you shouldn't take that against him, or maybe read meaning into it whenever he's doing something for the country, or or that has to do with religion, because as far as I'm concerned, everybody, must have some form of belief, whether you like it or not. You either believe there's God or you don't believe there's no God. You have to believe in something. So for that, I don't think I will ever fault the man. You see, it's like I said earlier on, he did his best. I think one thing that we all need to learn now is not just the leaders, even we, the followers, must learn now that you must guard your integrity, because what made the man to have the kind of burial that he had was because he lived a stellar life. I wrote this morning in my Saturday message that the man had so many juicy positions. He was NNPC. He was there was this I think Agbakahi made him chairman of another
PTF.
PTF. And I remember there was a time he was being probed about that. If you remember, he was probed.
2.8 million or billion dollars.
And
but they found out that he was wrong. There was nothing.
So it boils down to that integrity that we're talking about. That is why an average northerner will call him Megaskia. And what that means is an honest man.
Okay.
That's what it means. Megaskia means an honest man. And for millions of people to look at him and give him that name, I think that says a lot about how the man carried himself. I think he's kind of strict to a fault. And I can't blame him, because in a country as complex as Nigeria, you have to stand for something, or else you fall for everything. So so for me, I give you kudos for that, sir.
Yes, to me, even though he was a very strict individual, but towards the tail end of his career, probably because of age, some of his lieutenants, maybe tried to take advantage of him. And that was the truth. That was the truth. Even in the appointment of the last chairman of EFCC during his tenure, I think it was orchestrated by some, members of his cabinet, probably for selfish interest. That's just the truth. I believe former President Muhammadu Buhari was firm.
Yeah.
He was principled, but could also be pragmatic at some times. He becomes pragmatic. In fact, in the words of Tony Blair, former President Buhari could see the third way. He could see the middle ground in between opposing political and dogmatic positions, as well as considerations. That's the way I look at it.
I think one of his legacy that I cherish a lot was the fact that some people fault him for that, but I don't. I seem to understand where he's coming from. Is this idea of him being neutral when it comes to certain issues? For instance, when people ask him who to vote for, and he said, "Look, vote for whoever you want." Because some people, especially within our party, will have expected him to say, no, you have to vote APCO, you have to do this. But because of the kind of man he was, he felt it would be disingenuous of him to be asking people to vote for a particular candidate when he knew quite well that people have their preferences. So I think all he was just saying then was, look, if you have your favorite, go for it. May the best man win. I think that was his attitude.
Yeah, I think in that respect, what really happened during the primaries, of the APC, in 2022, there were a lot of candidates that felt they were closer
to him,
to the power that be in President Muhammadu Buhari's cabinet.
Yeah.
So in other words, if somebody went to see President Buhari saying that he wants to run for the presidency of this great country, you don't expect President Buhari to say, no, you will not run. I have a particular candidate who will run.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why I said that he had that democratic values of fairness
Yes.
in him.
Yeah.
Let everybody run.
Yeah.
But to me, I had said it even in different fora. I believe President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had a symbiotic relationship with former President Muhammadu Buhari. In 2015 election, even prior to that, in the formation of APC, and during the presidential primaries of APC, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu played a huge role in the emergence of former President Muhammadu Buhari. That is just the truth. No matter what the soothsayers would say, I still believe in that analogy.
I think there's something between the two of them that is only known to three people, the two of them and God. Like you said, I was astonished. When he emerged as the party's flag bearer in 2014, because I didn't in my wildest dream thought that he could pull it off. But like you said, it was the MasterCard of Tinubu at the time that made it possible. And I think that, you see, this is why it is always good for man to be, you just have to be good, because what goes around comes around. Because I believe,
See why he emerged. Listen, let me tell you. Our current president, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is a seasoned political animal. One with politics in his genes.
Yes.
He understands the intricacies and underpinnings in politics and also in governance. So I believe prior to the presidential primaries of APC in 2013-2014, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had looked at all the candidates from the North running for that election.
Yeah.
And just like many political observers, he felt that President Muhammadu Buhari had all it takes to win the election, particularly in light of his hot or organic-like followership in the North.
North, yeah.
If APC had brought in Atiku or Kwankwaso, I can bet you former President Jonathan would have won that election.
Yeah, sure. I think for any experienced politician will agree with you on that, because it's like you said, he has this organic voters in the North who had consistently been voting. I think that was one of the things, you see, when people call Jagaban a political strategist, I think they're right. Because he saw that as an organic vote that he could leverage on by adding the one from the Southwest and the Southeast, for him to be able to defeat, and because that has never happened before, like you said in your opening statement, that it has never happened, especially in Africa, that more or less like a new party, because APC was still new at the time, was less than 2 or 3 years old at the time, and for them to now defeat a party that had once prided itself as the giant of Africa. I think at some point they were saying they were going to rule for 60 years or something like that. But then, because it is God that rules in the affairs of men, I think that was why it was possible for these two to come together. That was why when Jagaban was talking about him going to meet the late President Buhari in Kaduna after the third attempt. You remember the speech in Abeokuta?
Yes.
A lot of people misconstrue it. That was why I said earlier when I was talking that these two people have something between them that only God knows. You see?
I agree.
He said certain things on that day that felt to me like divine, even though some people felt he was being braggadocious or whatever. No, because he knew what they both did. And I think the permutation was right at the time. And because a lot of people were disenchanted, with the government of the day, they saw an opportunity, they went for it, and boom, they defeated an incumbent government. So
yes,
for me,
which was rare. It was rare in Africa to, even up till now, it's difficult to defeat an incumbent government.
Very rare, very rare, and that was a first. And for me, when you look at the body language when each time both of them are together, look at their body language. You can tell there's something between these two that only the two of them and God knows, and nobody else. And the President Buhari himself, as a military man, he talks less and acts more. So for someone like that, you don't expect him to be going to Chochung like other politicians would do.
You're quite correct. That's why when you see some of his lieutenants, they want to talk ahead of him. He knows what he had in mind.
Yeah.
Because I remember vividly prior to the presidential primaries, of 2022 for 2023 general election.
Yeah.
You see many of them where they will go and say that Buhari said that this is the person he wants. They will go to this man, Buhari say it's not true. There was no time Buhari told them that this is my preferred candidate. He never had any preferred candidate that he made known to anybody.
Thank you. So I want to open the floor to the participants now, but I'm not seeing any hands yet. Please, if don't leave me and our special guest alone on this discussion. I remembered our former chairman was trying to fly a kite during the primaries, and that was why I think it was our youth leader who blew the whistle, because what he Adamu was his name, the one that was shunted out of he was trying to fly the kite within the NWC, that the president had told him that he was that Lawa, who was then the Senate president, was his candidate. He was trying to fly that kite amongst them because of his closeness to the president. But I think it was our youth leader then, Honorable Dayo Israel, who blew the kite, who blew the whistle to the whole world. And that was when everybody said, no, the Buhari that we know. This is why it's always good for you to be straightforward, let people know where you stand. A lot of people said, no, the Buhari that we know will never, ever do something like that.
He never endorsed anybody. He never did.
Yeah. And true to the matter, he showed the whole world that he had no. You remember what he said in his the day he was being inaugurated, when he said that I was for nobody or something like that.
Yes, I'm with everybody, but I'm with nobody. Yeah. Yes.
When I heard him say that, I said, this man is going somewhere with him. And I think that kind of showed in his 8 years as the president, because he tried to be as neutral as possible, but firm in certain areas where he feels that the security of the country or the economy of the country is being sustained. That is where you will see him put his foot down.
Yes,
but on other things, he sort of kind of say, you know what, let nature take its course. And I think that was what made sure that nobody was able to pin anything on him. He became more or less like a Teflon Don, because of that attitude. Because if he had stuck his neck out, this is my belief now. This is my own personal belief now, that if he had stuck his neck out at the time to pinpoint somebody, I'm sure certain rascals within the political circle would have used that against him. What do you think?
Yeah, to me, this is President Muhammadu Buhari was a gentleman that fought hard as a formidable candidate to become president of this country. Three times in a row, straight, and didn't get it. So eventually, when he now aligned himself with President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, and they formed a coalition. And finally, he won the election. We wanted to remain neutral. He didn't want to listen to any of his aides who were trying to push him in one direction or the other.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He remained neutral, but at the same time, he was firm.
Yeah.
He was firm. He was principled.
Yeah.
I believe he knew himself who would probably win that particular election. He knew.
And I think one thing I found kind of intriguing about him was the fact that as a military man, when he was coming, nobody thought he had that democratic element in him. But he seemed to wear that toga very well when he became the civilian president, and that shone through in all the decisions he made. For me, I think, like you said, I go back to what you said at the beginning, that I think Nigeria is blessed to have someone like that to rule this country for that 8 years. Because whether we like it or not, the infrastructure development that we are seeing today, right,
was an offshoot of it.
When the country was not even earning as much as we were earning when the other party was in government.
Yes.
A lot of money was coming in at the time. And I remember even during Jonathan's era, they were borrowing money to pay salaries, despite the fact that a lot of money was coming into the country.
Yes. Have you forgotten? Was it not during President Obasanjo's tenure that I believe, was it not an inning of blessed memory, when they spent almost 16 billion for electricity infrastructure?
Yeah.
$16 billion.
It's crazy. I think even Atiku himself came out on, I think Atiku corroborated that and even said certain contracts were awarded and they paid 100%. And that was the first time I heard it, and I was like, really? Who does that? You pay a contractor 100% upfront and nothing was done. And the lady who was interviewing him asked the question that, and nobody was prosecuted. He said no.
But you know, in my view,
yeah,
I believe that Atiku was also part and parcel of the administration.
Yeah, he was the one saying it.
Coming out now to say a different thing makes him a hypocrite.
That's crazy. Once again, today's topic is legacy of duty, reflecting on late former President Muhammadu Buhari's life and leadership. I believe some of our participants must have one or two questions to ask. I saw a hand up earlier, but the hand has gone again. The floor is open now for anybody who wants to ask a question. Please put your hand up so that we can give you the floor for you to be able to ask your question. You see, talking about Buhari's life and leadership, for me, I think his style of leadership is something that I think we need to study moving forward. Again, in tandem with the leadership style of the current president, because both of them seem to have their own unique style of leadership, right? Yes. Which I believe both of them, history will not forgive us in this country if we don't try to find out what makes these two guys tick. Because
yes, I believe the remarkable difference in the interim between President Muhammadu Buhari's leadership style and that of the current president is that President Muhammadu Buhari gives a free hand for his ministers to operate.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, even though he gives free hand, he also monitors
the underpinnings
of the ministries, which is good.
Everybody knows that about him. Yeah, yeah. Thank you so very much for pointing that out. Now we have, I think I'll need to use the floor to my co-host now, Barrister Tosi Olayinka. You have the floor now, so that we can go to the floor and ask and get our participants to ask our questions. To ask their questions. Barrister Tosi Olayinka, you have the floor now. Please let's unmute him.
Thank you very much, sir. Our chief host, Senior Barrister J.K. Adebola. And also, I'll use this opportunity to also welcome our special guest, distinguished Dr. George Agbakahi. Good to see you again, sir.
Thank you.
Yes.
You are in Abuja too. He too was in Abuja.
Yes, sir. Yes, we have a few questions here sent to us via text, and I'm sure you'll be able to do justice to them all. Actually, you've touched on some areas, but I know that probably this person may also need further clarity as regards these questions. And the first one goes thus. Sir, do you agree that the late President Muhammadu Buhari was a religious bigot? That was the first question. And the second one says, do you think if late President Muhammadu Buhari was an academic, Nigeria would have been far better off? Then the last question says, do you think his way of curtailing the excess of some secessionists was the right decision at a time, e.g., the invasion of Sunday Igboho's home and also the arrest of Nnamdi Kanu in that regard? So over to you, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you again. The very first question in respect of whether or not former President Muhammadu Buhari was a religious bigot. I think in my opening statement, I made an allusion to that particular variable. I do not think that he's a religious bigot. I said it earlier on, that in his previous campaigns for the presidency of this great country, the major element that was used against him was that he would Islamize Nigeria if he became the president of this country. But now, we've all found out, it's not good to start revisiting history. We have found out that he ruled for 8 years. He never Islamized Nigeria. Most of his policies, like I had mentioned earlier, were all devoid of ethnicity, devoid of religion, devoid of, of class. So to me, let me say it again, I don't think he was a religious bigot. He was a devout Muslim, quite all right, which some of us that are Christians are also devout. I'm a devout Catholic. I'm a knight in the Catholic Church, So I do not think he's an extremist in any way, how much more being a religious bigot.
Okay, thank you very much, sir.
The second one talked about if he was an academic, that he would have done better as president of this country.
Yes, sir.
Well, if you check globally, most people that were academics, they didn't do very well in leadership. See what I mean? After all, President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan was an academic, was a PhD holder, and also a lecturer in the university.
We have some kind of technical hitch there.
Yes, I think.
Could our engineers please
also gave him a lot of age,
okay,
especially in terms of fighting insecurity.
Oh, thank you very much, sir. I think we missed out. Go on, sir.
The third one, I think it was in respect of succession, right?
Yes, sir. Successionist.
Okay. This particular one is a very dicey one. It's a very dicey one, particularly with regards to Mazen Nnamdi Kanu. There are certain intelligence that former President Muhammadu Buhari and current President Bola Ahmed Tinubu have that we do not have. I've said it also in various fora, but on my personal opinion, just a personal opinion, I would really suggest, the release of Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, even if it's under some conditions, because his continued incarceration has also caused a lot of untold hardship in the Southeast. If you go to Southeast, people go about their normal business with fear. On Mondays, people do not go to work. People do not go out. They stay indoors because of these IPOB issues. So I believe personally that at some point, our president, current president, is a father who understands the intricacies and underpinnings in governance. I believe at some point, he may have to do the right thing and release, Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, even if it's under some conditions, for us to have peace and tranquility in the Southeast. Most of our leaders in Abuja here hardly go home because of insecurity problems. That is the truth. So I really appeal to President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and to the government in general to really look into this case and look for a way of resolving it, amicably, calling Igbo leaders, the key Igbo leaders, and bringing Mazen Nnamdi Kanu, and resolve it, even if it's under some, very necessary conditions, some prerequisites. That's what I have to say in this particular one. It's a very dicey issue.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. At this point, I will need to move further to bring forward some of our participants who are on this platform to probably ask their questions or probably to put in their submission. Now, I move forward to Pastor Alade. Do we have Pastor Alade on the platform? Yeah, he's still there. Pastor Alade Simon, please, you can come forward now to ask your question. Thank you very much. Can the admin please help meet Pastor Alade if he's still there?
So Alade is here.
Oh, you have the floor, sir.
Okay, thank you. Can we say that because the late former President Muhammadu Buhari was a Fulani man, and because he was a Fulani man, he was incapacitated to deal squarely with insecurity in Nigeria, because during his tenure, particularly 2019 and 2021, Nigeria recorded many deaths, and on the long run, about 63,000 Nigerians were wasted, either by Boko Haram members, banditry, kidnappers, and so on and so forth. Was it because he's a Fulani man? That's why he was unable to deal with the people behind this. Means question number one. Question number two, we know that ruled Nigeria for 16 years. And for that 16 years, 8 sectors were not developed to meet international standard. President, the way I manage
I believe probably is having some technical glitches on the other side.
But at least I got some of the questions.
Yes, sir. Likewise. Yeah, you can go on, sir.
Thank you, sir.
The very first question you asked, sir, was in respect of. Hello? Can I go ahead?
Security. Go ahead. Insecurity in Nigeria, particularly during this time.
Okay.
Was he because he's a Fulani man?
Okay. You see, the issue of insecurity in this country, to me, is not something one president will resolve. You see, starting from 1999, where President Olusegun Obasanjo was president, we've had issues of insecurity. You remember it was towards the end of President Obasanjo's tenure, former President Yar'Adua's tenure, that Boko Haram came into being in Borno State. And President Obasanjo fought hard to eradicate Boko Haram. Eventually, it didn't work. President Goodluck Jonathan also did all his best. And mind you, it was during President Goodluck Jonathan's tenure that Boko Haram held 17 local governments in Borno, in Yobe, and in Adamawa State. And certainly, according to political observers, that's one of the major variables that ousted him from office as president. So, in my view, I don't really think that it's because of his being incapacitated that made him not to tackle the issue of insecurity. During his tenure, he tackled insecurity head on. The issue of being a Fulani man, and that made him not to, go after Fulanis, that were involved in terrorism. I want to let you know it's not only Fulanis that were involved in terrorism. Some Hausa people were also involved in terrorism. Some other tribes were involved in terrorism. I can bet you, even in the North Central, some of the issues of banditry that is going on there, it's something that may not be resolved through military force. This may be resolved through resolving it amicably. Because, you see, there are certain factors that lead to insecurity. We can talk about unemployment. We can talk about poverty. So some of these issues need to be resolved amicably, for us to have a secured nation. But saying that is because he was incapacitated that made him be unable to fight insecurity, insecurity, and because he's a Fulani person, I didn't really see Buhari in that light. That's why I had said earlier, most of his politics, was devoid of ethnicity, of religion, and other factors. Then in respect of health sectors that was not developed up to international standard, this one I agree with you. But mind you, this one is not only related to former President Muhammadu Buhari. All along, right from President Obasanjo's tenure, all the way through Yaradua and Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan. You know, the issue of healthcare has always been a problem. You know, I think that's a problem that Nigeria needs to face. You know, it's very, very unfortunate, you know, that our leaders will go to overseas to go and receive, you know, medical care, while we have hospitals in Nigeria that can be equipped, you know, to handle all those serious illnesses. That's why the current president, particularly the current president, you know, so many new health centers have been built, you know, in almost two or three health centers in each of the 774 local governments in Nigeria. And mind you, he has upgraded so many teaching hospitals to be able to handle serious illnesses like cancer, kidney transplants, and others. I think this is a major problem where Nigerian governments had failed. But I believe that the way the current president is handling issues of healthcare, we might see a difference, particularly with the issue of universal insurance, which is being covered in all the local governments of this country. That's all I need to say about this, please. It's a very sad one. I agree with you.
Thank you very much, sir. Yeah, we have questions flowing in. Now I have three others here. The first one goes thus: that what do you think? Sorry, do you have what do you have to say about the late president obeying the rule of law? And the second question says, do you think the president obey the federal character as regards appointments that touch all parts of the country, as many people fought him for only appointing people that came from the north? Then the last question says, what will be your rating between his administration and that of former President Jonathan?
Okay. Well, I think the very first question in respect of the rule of law and former President Buhari's adherence, you know, to the rule of law. You know, in Nigeria, that has always been a problem. There are certain issues where certain presidents, based on principle, you know, try to go contrary to the rule of law. It happened during President Obasanjo. It even happened during Jonathan. You know, I think that's part and parcel, you know, of our presidential system, especially in respect of, you know, executive power. You know, I agree with you. There are some areas, you know, where the rule of law was not adhered to. And this is also related to both Jonathan and also Obasanjo and Yaradua's tenure. These are areas where the National Assembly needs to come up with legislation so as to limit the powers, you know, of the president. And I believe the National Assembly they've talked about that. In respect of the federal character, you know, the issue of federal character is also related to this issue of obeying the rule of law. You know, in our constitution, the federal character needs to be adhered to by the president, particularly in respect of appointments. But I think the truth remains that successive administrations have not really followed the federal character principle in their appointments. That is just the truth. You know, if you remember when Jonathan was there were too many people from the Niger Delta occupying, you know, top positions in government. During President Muhammadu Buhari's tenure, many people from the north also occupied top positions. And also, sorry to say it, even in the current dispensation, there has also been, you know, allegations, you know, against the current president of favoring, you know, mainly people from Southwest in some, you know, top positions. You know, like I said, these are areas that, you know, the National Assembly also needs to work on in respect of adherence to the rule of law, particularly the federal character. Because what we have is an executive president. And the Constitution requires that it's the duty of the president to make appointments in federal government. You see what I'm saying? That's just the truth. You know, I think it's something that the legislature need to do something to be able to curtail the powers of the presidency in terms of appointments. What was the other question again?
It's asking about your rating between the late President Muhammadu Buhari's administration and also the administration of former President Goodluck Jonathan. What is your rating?
You know, this is a very hypothetical question, and I don't want to get engrossed in hypothetical questions. You know, I believe they've all done their own part. You know, and in terms of President Muhammadu Buhari, you know, we are mourning him, and I think it will not be right for me, you know, to start doing that at this point. But to me, he did well as president of this country. And also President Jonathan, they all did their part towards the socio-economic development of this country. It's only God that we judge. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you very much, sir, for those succinct responses to the questions being raised by our participants. On this note, I would like to yield the floor back to our chief host in person of Ambassador J.K. Adebola. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, my learned friend. And thank you for taking us through that now. Because we don't have any more hands up now, we've got about 19 minutes to go. So it's just going to be a little bit of a chit-chat between me and our special guest. I love him so much, and I like the way he deals with issues head on without letting off. Thank you so very much, sir, for that. I think we just need to dig a little bit more into this security issue thing. You see, I think the problem that we have in our country is sometimes we tend to have what I call selective amnesia when it comes to certain issues, because I've had so many people talk about it that the man didn't do anything because he was Fulani, and he was allowing Fulani to be killing. And I love the fact that our special guest came in now to say, look, you see, because for me, I believe at the time, part of the problem we had was because certain ethnic group has been labeled by people, which then makes the works of the security people very, very difficult. Because it's like they say thief can't thief for your house. Policeman can't ask you, say, the man na black man, is he dark or yellow? You knew that the guy who came to steal in your house was dark-skinned. But you told the policeman, na yellow man, because you wanted to give certain people a bad name in order to hang them. So obviously, you will be sending that policeman on a wild goose chase. The policeman will not be able to profile the thief properly. I think that's one of the problems that we had, which is making the insecurity seem like it is kind of intractable. Because I've seen people. Okay, take for instance the one that happened in Benue State recently. One of the guys that was caught there was a local living in that village. But the narration at the time was, now Fulani people come here, come kill people. So you see, sometimes we are our own problem too, because we have already labeled a certain part of the country as the culprit. Instead of allowing the security people to do their job, we are sending them on a wild goose chase. I've seen people of other ethnicity being apprehended for either banditry, kidnapping, or the rest of them. They're not all Fulanis. We had Governor Soludo too recently, about a week or two ago. He too had he had something to say about this. So I think if we can have an open mind regarding this issue, I think that is for me, I believe that's the starting point for Nigerians now. If we are going to overcome this insecurity thing, every Nigerian must have an open mind regarding it. A crime is a crime is a crime. It doesn't matter. We don't have to label a certain tribe as the ones who are doing it. The moment you do that, you'll be polluting the investigation, and people who are meant to do the investigation may not be able to get to the bottom of the matter. That is just my own personal opinion on it, because I've heard people talk about it so many times, and each time I look at the whole scenario, and I'm like, are we not undoing ourselves with our own narrations regarding these issues? Let the security people do their job. It is not for me. It is not for me and you to say, oh, it is Fulanis that are killing people, or it is the Igbos that are killing people, or it is the Yorubas that are killing the people. You see, there are criminals in every part of
I totally agree with you. I believe the issue of security, the issue of insecurity in this country has really reached a boiling point, that we need a new security architecture to be able to overcome criminals. And I believe that, enormous efforts need to be put in place in the area of collection of intelligence, as well as sharing of intelligence among the police, among the security personnel. There needs to be a synergy. Very, very important. There needs to be a synergy amongst all of them, in such a way that when something is happening in Abuja, officers in Kefi need to know. Officers in Suleja needs to know at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That synergy is very important. Both the military, in other words, the Air Force, Army, and Navy, as well as the Nigerian police, the civil defense, the road safety, even prisons.
Yeah.
Just like when you go to US or London, for example, they have a single or a central database.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they are looking for a criminal in Abuja, and there is news that that criminal has gone to Kaduna or has gone to Jos, is on his way to any of these places, just placing it in the system, central system, will help police officers on the streets in the other zones to be able to track the person.
Yeah.
When a white man who dressed like a police officer went and killed the former speaker, I believe, of Minnesota State House of Assembly, and he ran. But he was caught in the other state, in a nearby state, because his name, his picture, his everything was already on the system. So this issue of database, the issue of collection of intelligence, sharing of intelligence, is very crucial for us to resolve criminality in this country. And I think our government should also look into employing AI. It's very, very important in order to fight terrorism head on. You know, because with AI, you can stay up there, all the way up there, and see exactly what is happening on the ground. Look at the way America attacked Iran. Even to that generals that were having meetings in the house. Through AI, they were able to pinpoint the exact location of the meeting and bombed and got them. So these are some of the tactics or tools that can be used in tackling criminality, particularly terrorism and Boko Haram in particular.
Thank you so very, especially for the last bit where you harped on AI, because for me, I've always been saying it that technology is the best way for us to tackle these things, because if the bandits are using our bushy area to operate, you know, from satellite you can always pinpoint them. I was talking to a friend the other day when there was this argument that we're having that some of these bandits, they will ask for a motorbike, they will ask for money, they will ask for a bags of rice, which gets delivered to them. So I'm thinking, what's wrong with bugging that motorbike, or even say putting a timed bomb on it, right? So that whoever takes delivery of it, yeah, you know, can be you know, eliminated at a certain point, so that at least by the time when the bomb goes off, that will alert the security agency to say, okay, the person who got that motorbike yesterday, this is the exact point. You see, we cannot continue to do the same thing and expect different results. There has to be some kind of paradigm shift in the way, one, that we collect intelligence and we analyze intelligence and we execute intelligence, because those are the three key elements in overcoming this insecurity. Because one, there has to be an intelligence collection, and that intelligence has to be analyzed, right? And it is after that has been analyzed that then they can then begin to think of how to execute, because these people are not ghosts. So how come? And when you see again, another thing that is bothering me, sir, is this: these bandits, when you see them, people who are collecting 200 million, 200, 300 million from, they look like ragtag guys. They don't look like somebody who has 10,000 naira in their pocket. So which leaves me to begin to believe that these guys are probably running errands for some people.
That's the truth. That's the truth. There has been arguments. There has been argument that there are certain people in the mainstream that are coordinating the terrorists. That's the truth. There has been argument, even though I don't know if there has been proof. So this is area that the security agencies also needs to focus on. Let them look towards the trail of the finances.
Yeah.
Look towards the trail of the finances, and now you'll be able to find out the ringleaders of the terrorist organization.
I think you're right there, sir, because I'm going to say something very controversial now. Because I believe one of the guys who is now aligning with ADC now, it was our Attorney General before, and I remember vividly now. He came on national TV and told the whole world that he has a list of financiers of Boko Haram. This was a couple of years ago. Up to now, not a single prosecution. And this is the same guy now who is now telling Nigerians now that he wants to now rescue us. So if he couldn't, as a legal person he had all the powers at the time to prosecute any of those guys, he didn't do that. You see, because these are some of the failings that we have in this country that is making the country ungovernable. I just wanted to say this now so that some of our people will be aware that there are certain people that when they come to the public to say certain things, we need to interrogate them and ask them questions. Because if I had my chance, I would ask this guy. I will ask him, when you had the power, you told us you had a list of the financiers of these people. Where are they? How come throughout your tenure you did not prosecute one of them? I think these are some of the issues now. So that is why I think for us to get to the bottom of this, there must be the willpower of those in the corridor of power to be able to tackle this issue holistically. This is just my own 10 pence on it. So I don't know if you have any last remarks to make, sir, because we'll be closing now, sir.
Well, to me, in respect of the subject matter,
yeah,
I believe President Muhammadu Buhari played a huge role,
yeah,
in the economic and political development of this country. His journey to national leadership, like I said, started way back in 1978. And he served Nigeria creditably as a military leader and also as a civilian leader. And was able to play a prominent role in employing democracy in this country. At least he has been succeeded by a president who belonged to the same party with him. And I also now believe truly that the current president and the APC as a whole will honestly carry on with the profound and lasting legacies that he left behind, by which he will be remembered forever. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you so very much, sir. What a way to draw a curtain on our program today. And thank you for spending the 2 hours with us. And thank you for being as open as you can be on all the questions that was thrown at you. And most especially, thank you so much for beating most of our people to this program today, because you came in about 40 minutes before we started. Thank you so very much for that. We really do appreciate that, because when you want to lead, I believe you have to lead from the front, and you have to lead by example. And you have just done that today now. And for that, we remain grateful to you. And my regards to your family as well. Hopefully, when I come to Abuja next time, I will come visiting. I will come visiting.
Thank you very much for having me. And please continue to do the great job. You're a patriotic Nigerian, and the country loves you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. And please permit me to say that it is not only me doing this. We have a team. I even have a boss on top of me. He doesn't like to be mentioned, but everybody knows who he is. But then I equally have a team, because this cannot be done by just one person. We have a team that works together. So thank you so very much for that, sir. For as long as we have people like you coming on our show, we will not rest, and we will not stop. We will continue, because all we are here for is to ensure that, number one, our people get the right information from the right source. Then two, to ensure that the image of our country is not allowed to be damaged by some unscrupulous elements whose job is daily maligning our country. So that is why we are here, and we'll continue to do what we are doing. Thank you so very much, and God bless you, sir, as you continue your journey.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
On this note, we will be joining the curtain, but before then, I just need to recognize the attendance of some of our leaders. I've got Professor Adeshegun Labinjo from America. Pardon me again. I forgot. Pardon me today. I forgot your name the other day. I don't know why. Maybe it's on the spot of the moment somehow. But today I remembered now. Professor Adeshegun Labinjo from the USA. My sister Alhaja Aulat Sule. Thank you so very much for being part of this program. You guys rock, because every time we come out every Saturday, you are always here. Thank you so very much. Engineer Olabode Jones from Russia, thank you so very much. I appreciate you. Hajia Rabi Garba Dangizo, thank you so very much from Abuja. Thank you so very much. I see you guys. Dr. Michael Tomori from Nigeria as well. Thank you so very much for being part of this program. A lot of people, too numerous to mention. I just bowled over that you are never tired. Every Saturday when we come, you come in again and support us. APC Diaspora Benin Republic. Thank you so very much too for being part of this. We appreciate you guys. Thank you ever so much. So on this note, let me call on the matron of the house to give us the closing remarks. Hajia Rekia Bello Abakar, you have the floor now.
Thank you, sir, Chief Host. Ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of today's special episode on the life and times of our late former president, Muhammadu Buhari, DCFR. I'd like to thank our special guest, Dr. George Agbakahi, a renowned Nigerian political analyst, for your remarkable analysis on the life and times of former President Buhari. To be honest, Buhari was my attraction into politics. He was the people's general.
Me too.
That's how he's fondly called. That's the tall man of Daura. May God forgive his shortcomings.
Amen.
Thank you also to our participants who joined us from across the world. Please join us again next time for another very exciting episode. And on behalf of the Renewed Hope Global Virtual Town Hall Conference team, have a great weekend. God bless Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Hadia. On that note, I would say watch out for the next VVIP for next week. In the next couple of days, we will be releasing the details. As soon as you get it, please continue to share it as wide as you can, so that next week and be our guest again next week, so that together we'll continue to showcase our country in good light to the outside world. Thank you so very much, and God bless you.
Nigeria to greatness.
Brought to you by the National Orientation Agency, NOA.